On to this now. I've been asking all morning, what does poverty mean to you? Did you grow up poor? And how did you know you were poor? And what was that moment or sign for you that indicated you had finally escaped it? And even though you may no longer be poor, in what ways does poverty still touch you? Through relatives, extended family perhaps? Statistics South Africa has released an updated look at poverty trends between 2006 and 2023 in South Africa. And it is showing that many people are still living below food lines, but we are steadily also helping many escape. But what do these terms like lower bound or upper bound mean, and how does this information get collated in the first place? You may remember a caller on Friday who asked that we get the Statistician-General to talk to us and explain about how this information is put together, because he said no one ever visited my house, knocked on my door, asked these questions. So how does StatSA come up with all these figures and statistics? Well, we exist to serve, and I can tell you that the Statistician-General Risenga Maluleke has generously obliged and joins us now. A very good morning to you, and thank you for your time. Welcome to 702 Breakfast.
Let me greet you, Bongani, and let me greet the 702 Breakfast listeners.
All right, so we're going to try and get your very complicated, complex work to be made simple for the lay person. So you're going to help us wade through some what might be obvious to you, but maybe perhaps for lay people not so much. So firstly, I suppose, can we start with an overall picture of what poverty looks like in South Africa today? I said we're making steady improvements. We are.
Certainly, Bongani, but let's first start with your comment right at the beginning to explain what poverty is. There is a difference between what we call subjective poverty, which we use the multidimensional poverty index to measure. Things like I'm poor because I don't have parents, I'm poor because I don't have a phone, I don't have medical care, I don't have education, I don't have a job. That is subjective. That is what any person can say out of their own perspective. Then there is what we call money metric poverty, and that is what we have released in recent times or last week. Money metric poverty looks or derives its existence from what we call the income and expenditure survey, which we conducted way back 2022-2023. That is November 2022-2023. Now, money metric, it is standard for everyone. It doesn't matter what your views or subjective views are, and scholars call it an objective view. And how do we look at it? So we went to households, and there's a caller who said they never visited me. Indeed, we would not visit every household like we did in the census. We only visited 31,000 dwelling units and used the population as of 2023 to put weights to elevate the poverty to the national level. And we don't do it only with the poverty measure. We do what we call the quarterly labor force survey, the general household survey. You can't run, a census costs about 6 billion rands. So we can't every day, every month be spending 6 billion rands. It would not be practical.
Yeah.
So that is why we do samples. Having said so, this money metric poverty line uses the consumer price index data as well as the income and expenditure data that helps us to know what we call poverty lines. So we have 3 poverty lines, Bongani. The first one is what we call the food poverty line. That is people falling between below that line or below that amount would potentially be poor and would run at the risk of not having food. So anyone in a household or in a family where they don't and they don't have an income of 777 rands. That is in a household of 4 members, about 3,200. If that household doesn't have an income, and we use the word income, this income may come from salaries, it may come from old age pension, from grants that are directed to young people or children under 18, or it could be from remittances, money that we send to our relatives. So a household of 4 people, if they wouldn't be earning about 3,200, or they would not have that income, would be food poor. Then the lower bound poverty line, which is the next line, which we track using, because the National Development Plan says we will track the lower bound poverty line as a measure of poverty. Anyone who doesn't earn 1,300, or who doesn't have an income, not earn an income of 1,300. So in a household of 4 people, if they don't earn 5,200, they would be poor, because it's the lower bound. At that level, they have to choose between buying food and some necessities. The upper bound, it's 2,635 rands. That is where people can choose to start having some luxury, and that takes us to about when people can earn about in the region of about 12,000 rands, 11,000, 12,000 rands.
I'm going to interrupt you. I'm going to interrupt you because you kind of mentioned different figures within these ranges, if I may call them that. So obviously you are looking at an individual level, right? And then you're also looking at, I imagine, the number of people in the household they may support. Am I correct? That's the difference between the two figures you are giving for each of those levels.
Certainly, Bongani, it's because households can be a single member household, a 2-member house. A person staying alone can be a household because they cook their own food, they have their own resources. A 2-member family, a 10-member family, a 6-member family, a more than 10-member a household is still a household. That's why we use an individual and a household.
Tell me, are you able to track in terms of, because I also know one of the measures they often will use, or that is often used, are in your cost of basic needs approach, to be able to look at what people are actually putting in their food baskets, and things like, caloric content of their food baskets. Are you able to break it down in that sense instead of just rands and cents?
Certainly, what happens is that in the consumer price index, there's a basket of food and other services. So it's goods and services. But specifically in terms of calories, we get this information from the South African Medical Research Council, which works with the World Health Organization to decide on the quantity of each food item consumed, the caloric content of each item per 100 grams, as well as the price of each item per 100 grams.
How many poor people are there in South Africa, from what you know?
When we use the lower bound poverty line, which is what we are tracking as directed by the National Development Plan, we have about 23.2 million people poor as of 2023, which was the time we concluded the income and expenditure survey. That represents at the time a population of 17.9%.
And what's the trajectory in terms of getting people out of poverty? Are we going the right direction, or do you think we've got some distance to go?
Let me apologize. I said 17.9 million. Let me apologize. It's 37.9 million. My apologies, not 17.9. Now, the question that you
So
are
that is the
asking,
number.
are we,
Hold on, because you're giving me a lot of figures all at the same time. So the number of poor people in South Africa. This is now that lower bound level. You are saying it's 37.9 million people.
no, 37.9%, which represent 23.2%. Let's start with the number of people. 23.2 million people
Are poor. All right.
And represents 10.9% as of 2023.
All right, let me just make sure I've got that right now. So you're saying as a hard number, we're looking at around 23 million people who represent 37.9% of the population.
Certainly, as of 2023.
As of 2023.
That was the time we conducted the income and expenditure survey.
We know, of course, there are a number of people in South Africa on various welfare programs receiving various types of support from the state. Are those interventions making a dent?
Certainly, they are. And let me start with the question that you were raising. Are we seeing poverty coming down? Certainly it is. We measured poverty in 2006. At the time, we had said 51% of the population was poor. But when in 2023 we had the new basket of goods,
All right, I'm sorry, I keep losing you. The signal is a little intermittent because it keeps breaking. I want to make sure I've got these numbers. So in 2006, you're saying we were at 51% of poor people in South Africa. And those numbers have obviously since changed.
Using the lower bound, right? So having said so, when in 2023 we had the new basket of goods and services, and we took about 46 food items that are typically consumed by poor households, we recalibrated backwards, meaning that because the foods that were consumed in 2006 are not the same like those that are being consumed in 2023. So when you recalibrate backwards in what we call rebasing, you would end up with 2006, about 57% of the population that was poor. 2009, it was 55%. 2015, it was 40%. So now that we are sitting at 37.9%, it means poverty is going down. So the trajectory is starting to go down.
Gosh, how do government, or how should government and policymakers use your data to make decisions?
They use our data. Government is the biggest user of our data, not only this poverty data. Government uses our data from the economy, employment. We present data to, I do present myself to cabinet from time to time. I present to all political parties from time to time. I present to scholars, I present to every member of the public who may want, and our team of experts from all different sectors of the organization, Statistician present. So our data gets used not only by government, but also by members of government to engage, by members of the public to engage government on issues that they want to be resolved.
Appreciate your time. Risenga Maluleke is the Statistician General. The picture is not necessarily a pretty one, but it certainly isn't as ugly as it has been.
Current events, developing stories,
tough questions,
your voice making a difference.
This is Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa.